Roll call, please.
Mayor Copeland,
Here.
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Ken Jones is absent, Jeff Guard is absent. Melina Meyer,
Here.
Ann Schaefer,
Here.
David Allison,
Here.
and David Booth.
Here. So the work session topic tonight is a council discussion of city finances and the CCMCA request for financial assistance. Manager Lanning.
A couple things that I've done is, first trying to determine the actual amount, which I think we pretty much have at 1.145 million. The sheet that we were given, 145,404.24 is CCMC's need. And that was a
roll call,
sheet
please.
that you got
Mayor Copeland.
on
Here.
7/31/19
Here.
Jones
as
is
part
absent,
of
Jeff Guard.
CCMC's presentation to you. So then the question for me was to figure out how to come up with that money in cash. Back from February of 19, we gave you a report, and you don't have that report probably in front of you because you don't keep the papers, but it spells out what we have in terms of money. There was a mention, and there was one of the council members mentioned that perhaps there were CDs available. We do have 2 CDs, one for 376,000, one for 108,000, but those CDs are associated with capping the landfill. So in my mind, those would not be available for use. We have all of the funds. If you look in your budget, in the back of the budget, and I know you probably don't have your budget with you, but if you look in your budget, beginning on page 140, you'll see the balance, the depreciation reserve in each one of the enterprise funds. Now, I know there's some legalities and some thoughts on that, but I think technically that cash would be available to you if you wanted to spend it, but that's not the intent or the purpose of that money in my mind. For example, there's 1.1 million plus, I think, in the harbor fund. That's the depreciation fund. And their balance was about 1.4 million, I think is what it was. And we're now spending 300,000 of that to do repairs. And so the rest of these accounts have balances somewhere in the 580 range. And of course, I think you want to have that money available in case something goes wrong. So we don't have a lot of cash in that area. Our cash flow necessary to run the city runs about $3 million. So it comes down to really, we have 2 funds that are available for us for your consideration, unless you have other ideas. Our need is 1.145 million. The value of the central treasury on August 8th was 1.142 million. I think I sent you that email to council. That has gained 73,000 in value this year. So it's pretty close to meeting the obligation for the PERS. If you go to this chart that you have in front of you, these are a little bit older numbers, but these were as of July 1st. You can see the asset allocation of 1.13 million, that's the central treasury. And if you look at the next page, it's 8.453 million or something like that. That is the permanent fund. The central treasury does not take 7 votes, as I recall, but the permanent fund of 8.4 million does require 7 affirmative votes to take money from that. And I think there are some limitations on what the money can be spent for. So you add those 2 together and you get 9.4 million and change is your real cash position. So thinking about what to do, I think the permanent fund, and Dave, you said this before, that you don't think that number needs to be that high, and that's a council policy decision. But my understanding is the Central Treasury Fund was put together just for that purpose. It was intended to be a buffer between the permanent fund, which is the 7 votes, and an extraordinary need. That's why the 1.1 million. So that's what I know. If you asked me for a recommendation, I'd be happy to do that. But at this point, those are your options. The impact of draining the Central Treasury Fund is your combined income for those funds, not as a percentage or it's just a dollar amount, is going to be reduced. And in a good year, you're gonna reduce that by about 80 grand a year, your total income for those 2 funds. This year, you're up about 500, and 74 of that is because of the Central Treasury.
Councilman Schaefer?
Is there a minimum level that account can go, or would?
No,
Sometimes there's, like,
you'd probably
restrictions.
drain that account.
Oh, okay.
And it would still be a Central Treasury account, but it would just have 0 balance. That doesn't preclude you at some time from putting more money in there. But for all intents and purposes, the numbers match the need and the amount.
Councilman Allison?
Yeah, a couple things. First, I don't know if I was misunderstood or misspoken. I guess I've never really said that I thought that the permanent fund was too high. What I oh
Well, I was talking to him.
oh okay.
Sorry.
I have said many times that part of that permanent fund is money that we got from forest receipts that was put into there specifically. We've got resolutions that show was put into that permanent fund with the anticipation that one day we would need to withdraw some of those to pay some of those bonds back. So I guess that's where I come from when I permanent fund. But this Central Treasury that you're talking about, is that $1.1 million, is that unallocated? That isn't part of the landfill closing, that's not part of the harbor depreciation fund, that's not part of all those other funds that we have, the sewer water depreciation fund.
All of that money is available to us. It is invested at this point in various instruments, more liquid instruments than long-term instruments. And going back to the 229 and the February 19 report, listing out the amounts that are in the First National Bank and Central Treasury account, it's $5 million. But all the money's accounted for and the Central Treasury funds are uncommitted.
Okay, so the 1.1 is uncommitted,
It's uncommitted.
unallocated,
Uncommitted,
free,
unallocated.
okay.
Yeah, now we just paid the what do we spend, 200 something? We took that money out of the, what did we just do 200 and
So
something for?
if we spend all of that, then the bills that we pay month to month, week to week would be coming from the rest of those allocated funds then, because there is no money that's unallocated at that point.
Well,
Spent it all, correct?
really, the unallocated, there's this, it's called the repurchase account. That's a giant swimming pool of money. And that's our biggest swimming pool of cash money other than the permanent fund, which is not a cash money necessarily. You can liquidate it, but so we have harbor money, and all of those monies are separated, but they're all accounted for. If you know, if I'm being clear.
Yeah, I guess I want to see that pile of money out here, and I want the harbor to come get what they've got, they think is theirs,
And those are all,
get what they think is theirs, and then we'll see what's left.
those are all done. Those are all done. The latest portion that Dean did, all that money was broken out. That's why our repurchase account went so low, because he actually allocated those funds out.
Okay, so we've got $1 million left after that, 1.1 million, after everything's allocated, but then we got no more cash to play with, other than other people's money.
But we do use all of that money for part of the repurchase account.
I recognize that, but sooner or later, sooner or later, we're gonna have to close the landfill. Sooner or later, the harbor's gonna wanna pay their bills.
Well, and you hope at those times that when you get your repurchase amount, that your total allocation in that part of your account, the top line of 5.2 million and the bottom of 8 million for $13 million, $13.8 million in total resources this city has. So you take out the 9, which is the 2 central treasury and the permanent fund. Those are your real liquid assets that aren't committed.
Councilman
Go ahead, Chief.
Schaefer, then Baylor.
Can I be reminded, how much are we paying in late fees every month again, or interest?
12%.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess that was my first comment. I think we all agree that this needs to get handled, taken care of. And to me, the enterprise funds are absolutely a no-go to touch any of those. So in my mind, it leaves the permanent fund. And we're just going to have to discuss it, and 7 of us are going to have to say yes, and if we can do it, pull it out of there. I don't see a real good option otherwise.
Is the central treasury not a good option?
I don't think so. I think the permanent fund, leave the central treasury. Remind me again, how many votes does it take to get out of there?
4.
4?
So you have that buffer there. If something happens, you can get 4 votes normally. If you drain that, something happens. Now you're back to pulling it out of the permanent fund and trying to get 7 votes. We made this mess. City did. We need to take care of it, and I think the permanent fund's the way to go. So that would be my preference.
Councilman Schaefer.
Is there a different, fiscal impact? You're saying how much we made off the central treasury and the permanent fund. Is there a difference in if we take it all out of the central treasury, or if we take it out of the permanent fund, will we get more or less back?
No, I think it's a fairly consistent investment strategy, maybe even a little bit more conservative and liquid on the central treasury side. And so I don't think it'd be an appreciable difference
Between the two? Okay.
between the two.
Councilman Ellison.
Yeah, I guess I'm with Councilmember Baylor on this, and thinking that it should probably come from the permanent fund. If we spend the whole entirety of the central treasury, then we're not leaving anything in the bank to pay our bills with other than the enterprise monies funds. And I don't think that that's a good thing to do. I mean, it can be done, yes. Has it been being done for a long time? Probably. Should it be done? I'm with Councilmember Baylor. We need to take care of this, and the permanent fund is where it would have come from had we been paying the hospital $1 million a year on an ongoing basis. And we just need to take care of this, and it along with that taking care of it, and there needs to be some clear direction that it can't get behind again.
And we have talked with Kevin Worley from PERS, and unless I'm mistaken, it does not appear that we're going to get any breaks, concessions, or reductions. We're trying. Yeah, we're trying different avenues, but it's unlikely. He's the chief financial officer, so it's unlikely. He said, I don't know of anything that'll help you.
Briefcase full of cash might.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Councilman Baylor.
And then just a little off subject, but the Library Museum, I think we sold it for $500,000. And if I remember correctly, that was supposed to go back into the permanent fund. And I don't know if that payoff has happened.
He's
Gonna
making lease
happen.
payments right now, I believe.
Isn't there like a 3-year?
Oh, he had like 10 years, I think, and seven
Oh, was it
of those years
longer?
could count, yeah.
Okay, all right, then that's not going to be coming back anytime soon. All right.
I was just thinking of restrictions on the, I think from the permanent fund, it seems like in the past that permanent fund money might be allocated to capital, like the school bond debt reimbursement or something, and then that frees up the, is that kind of how that's been done? Because like you said, there's restrictions on what the permanent fund can be spent.
There's some restrictions on what the permanent fund can be spent on, yes.
We've almost created an emergency here, though. I mean, a 12% emergency.
If there's anything Bitney can do or that we can do, I kind of feel like the state, by allowing that lesser payment and then letting that go on for a year, and then all of a sudden wanting that all come due, kind of help create this problem themselves a little bit. So I don't agree that they aren't a little bit culpable in this.
Well, we had an interim hospital city administrator a few years back. And if I remember correctly, he had it up to where we were a couple months shy of being caught up on his PERS. And so the last 3-4 years, we've kind of gotten ourselves into this. So, but what do we do to move forward? And like I said, I agree with Mr. Ellison, the permanent fund's the way to go.
Councilman Allison.
I think we need to have some kind of a document on the table to do it for the permanent fund. If we can only get 5 votes, then there's only one other option. But I think we got to try to get it from the permanent fund, because that's the only proper place for it to come from. If it's not for this, it's going to be for something else, because we can't take our bank account to zero and be able to pay our bills. So.
Councilman Schaefer.
So
Oh, sorry, were you done?
Oh, I was just, I don't know what we need. Do you need a motion? Do we need some kind of an ordinance in front of us? What does it take?
Permanent fund does, yeah, an ordinance.
We'll prepare an ordinance for first reading from the permanent fund, because it doesn't take 7 on the first reading, correct?
Correct.
And so we'll prepare that to transfer the necessary amount into the right accounts and do a budget amendment associated with it.
Councilman Schaefer.
in terms of process, if we bring this up for coming out of the permanent fund and then we don't have the votes for it, can it be brought up again, but coming out of the central treasury, or could we just amend it to come out of the central treasury?
I don't think you can, is central treasury general fund reserve?
No, the central treasury,
Ordinance or?
the central treasury is a separate investment account. It's not part of the repurchase money, and it's not part of all the other people's money. It's separate and distinct in and of itself.
Well, if I could, Mayor, you could get, feel how the rest of the council sits here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we've heard from 2 councilmen, I think, that were favored taking it from permanent fund. How does the rest of the council?
Seems like the thing to do to me, too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like 5 and,
So out of 2 more
Plus
council people, we need at least 1 vote.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, because mayor.
If the mayor's on board with that.
I do.
Yeah, that's-
I mean,
yeah, I'm
I think
assuming that. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with what
So,
you proposed.
and then I'm sure staff knows this, but then when we write the resolution, it would be like up to, in case we do get a break or something like that, and then maybe make it a little bit more than what we think it is if interest keeps coming up. And we don't have to spend it, but
Right.
rather than trying to come back.
And authorize that much.
Yeah.
And I do have a final call into UBS, because I asked him the same question. Which fund do you think is the most appropriate for paying this amount of money? So Chad and I talked the other day about the number, but I never talked about the appropriateness.
Other comments, council? Questions?
Yeah, I guess, do we need to move on this? I mean, do we need to, are we going to wait 2 weeks for the next meeting and 2 weeks again and again? How's the 12% being compounded? I mean,
Yeah.
what's particulars as far as should we get this done sooner rather than later? 12% of $1.1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, 1% a month, so $10,000 a
Yeah. Well,
month.
that's,
If you wanted to read this at a special, I would prefer it not being the second reading at a special, because I would feel like the public might feel slighted. But if you did the first reading at a special meeting, and then the second reading at the first September meeting, that would be
what do
quicker.
you guys think? Because I think we need to move that 10 grand.
Yeah, I think we need to move on it, and I think during our regular meeting, we can talk about doing maybe a special meeting and putting it on there for the first reading, and then do a second one
Good idea.
during our regular meeting or something, but.
Oh, yeah.
Or you could do, at
I
one
think we can
meeting,
talk
you
about that
could
for
have one motion for paying it out of central treasury, and then another ordinance for first reading to transfer from permanent fund to central treasury.
At second reading, maybe we'll bring that resolution that also has it out of central treasury, whatever that really is.
Well, we're going to transfer the money to, the CCMC for payment to PERS. I mean, there's going to be some sort of, it's going to come out of the central treasury into, I don't know what account, and then it's going to goes to the CCM, or we're going to go to PERS, or however that payment is. We might have to create account for that payment. So I don't know those particulars at this time, but all I need to know is if you want it to come from the permanent fund, and then we'll do that, and what date you want the first reading.
At pending agenda, we can talk about that at the regular, to have a special. I mean, we have 6 minutes. Somebody knows what day they're thinking already. But we should bring it up again at the regular meeting.
So I'm not sure I'm clear on this now. So the next regular meeting would be a first reading of an ordinance to take the money out of the permanent fund. Then the next regular meeting would be to pay it out of central treasury, and then have a second reading on permanent fund.
I thought if we had like next Wednesday, a special, we could put the first reading of the ordinance on.
Okay.
Then at the September 4th, which
Okay,
is the
gotcha.
next regular,
Regular meeting.
we can
Okay,
have
I'm
both
with you.
items on the
Gotcha.
agenda. A resolution from general fund reserve, which I guess is central treasury, and the second reading of the ordinance.
And then meanwhile, staff could work on the mechanism for paying it. It's probably going to take a little time to arrange a ACH or transfer or whatever, and then,
That could take up to a month
yeah.
to get that all arranged. I think we just finished the last one, the 269,000 for the truck. Even after approval, we just finished all that transfer this week, because it takes that long to prepare all those things. Again, I want to say that, my understanding is central treasury is a distinct and separate account that is combined with, it's not combined, it's invested just like the permanent fund. It does not affect our cash flow. It does not affect our fund balances in other funds. Just to be clear. And that one doesn't take 7 votes. And I will ask Chad again, but that's my understanding of it.
Councilman Allison.
Yeah, so when you do the agenda for that second reading, put the ordinance on first, and then if it failed, then we've got the next item on the agenda can be the resolution. Take it out of the other one. But I still think it needs to come out of
21st, 2019 to order at 7 p.m. If you join me in pledging the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A roll call, please.
Mayor Copeland?
Here.
Tom Baylor?
Here.
Ken Jones is absent. Jeff Gard is absent. Melina Meyer?
Here.
Ann Schaefer?
Here.
David Allison?
Here.
And David Gleason?
Here.
That's a quorum of council.
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Agenda is approved as submitted. Does council have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications to disclose? Seeing none, communications by and petitions from visitors. Are there any audience comments regarding agenda items? Seeing none, chairpersons and representatives of boards and commissions, CCMC.
Greg Meyer, CCMC Authority Board. Let's see, so we've been meeting, Bert Adams and I have been meeting regularly, and talks are going real positively. They flew down, Indian Health Services flew down a facilities engineer and did a tour of the facility. And Randall, our CEO, has gone to Alanka and met with, let's see who they met with, Sydney Bradford and Carrie Collins, and did a tour of their facility and met with their people and just mostly talked patient issues, not politics. But that was a good meeting. As Alan said, we have been in contact with Kevin Worley, CFO of PERS. He really didn't have much to say other than show up with some money and talk. And our current numbers on PERS is, that spreadsheet I gave you, the last one was for last year, and we've just estimated this year. So we don't have an exact number, and he won't give us anything until we have some money, probably. But anyway, I'll try to get those numbers firmed up. As far as office stuff, we're switching clearinghouses. I told you that. The current clearinghouse charges us $20,000 a month. And the new one we have, which is TrueBridge, we'll do it by bill. So it's going to save us quite a bit of money. And we're trying to get everything, all the billing in-house. We're probably 50% there now. So working with TrueBridge is helping a lot. They're working with us. We're switching radiology services from VRAD and they're a Minnesota company, to Alaska Imaging. VRAD has a monthly fee, and these guys don't, so they'll do it by things. So we're saving some money there, and they're a little easier to work with since they're in Anchorage. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Sanders recommended them, so we're switching that. We've got Carrie Peterson on doing reception, and we're going to try to get her to do some follow-up billing. Our walk-in patients paying with credit card or just getting credit or whatever, we only receive about 25%, 20 to 25% of those invoices. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try to implement contacting people and offer them a discount to pay immediately or put them on a payment plan. Like, we're not doing any of that right now. We're just essentially writing off 80% of the walk-in folks. So we're going to try to do something to get a little more aggressive. And if we're only getting 20, 25%, we might as well give them a 50% discount to pay immediately. So we're trying to do some of that stuff. Let's see. Lots of numbers, but I wish Barb was here. Barb Jewell, behavioral health side of things. We're fully staffed for the first time in a year, And client numbers are up 20% in the last 2 quarters. She got a Alaska Children's Trust Grant, which is a parenting education support program just recently. We've had more emergency calls in the last 2 weeks than we had in the last 9 months. I don't know if that's a good thing, but evidently we're needed. It's a strange business, you know, we depend on people getting sick and hurt and all that stuff to make any money, but anyway. So also on the behavioral health side of things, you know, we're still trying to figure out what the impact of the cuts are going to be. I think there's 6.1 million cut on that side of things. 65% of Sound Alternative behavioral health budget comes from the budget line items, and they're cutting 18% of that. So we're going to get hit there too. So we're 5% on Medicaid, Medicare, and also the probably 18% or whatever it is on behavioral health. We're still trying to put those numbers together. Let's see what that's going to be. That's all the good news. Anyway, we have our auditor coming next Wednesday. I don't know if you guys are going to schedule a next special meeting, but our auditor that did the 2018 audit will be here in person to explain that. And I'm going to have him do a 20-minute PERS presentation to our board and whoever shows up, and just kind of explain how that works and how it affects it shows up on our income statement in an irregular form. Some years we can have 3.5, like 4 years ago, we had $3.5 million in labor and $3.5 million in PERS. Doesn't sound like it's possible since we're only supposed to pay 30%. But the way that works is actuarial tables, as investments go up and down, either that number is lower for us on our financials or higher. And we make up the difference. And anyway, so hopefully he's going to explain things like that. So that's 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Typically we do Thursday meetings. We had some conflicts with board members, so we're going to do it Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. School board.
Good evening, Alex Russin, Superintendent of Schools. I had some notes written down, but I'm just going to go from memory here. But so today was the first day of school. Lots of happy faces and energetic smiles coming through the door, and a couple teachers even smiled. But you know, lots of kids and parents excited to get the school year underway. So we are excited for that. This year's graduating class, the class of 2020, will be the 100th graduating class here in Cordova. So be on the lookout for events and information and kind of fun activities and festivities happening this school year. Related to that, this past June, we received our 85th year of accreditation as a high school. And originally it started out with what has evolved to the Northwest Educational Lab accrediting body out of, I think it's out of the Washington area, but we are one of the few schools in Alaska that have been accredited for that length of time. So since 1934. So I think it's quite a accomplishment and recognition for both our community and folks who have come through the school system during that time. The school board is in the process of working on a resolution to send to the ferry service, Alaska Marine Highway Service, just supporting and encouraging them to develop a year-round schedule that will not only help meet the needs of the school district, but the community as well. So that's in draft form, and they'll be taking a look at that either in a special meeting or at September's meeting on September 11th. And the board subcommittees will start meeting soon. There are a number of committees, including the Safety and Facility Committee, which will meet next Tuesday. And Melvin from the city has been part of that committee as his time permits the last year or so. So we're real happy to have him taking a little bit of his day to come and join us and talk about facilities and safety and so forth. We're in the process of installing some exterior cameras, security cameras at both of the facilities, and we're using some grant monies to pay for those. So that's a little bit slow in going, but trying to help minimize some of the after hours on campus activity that occurs from time to time. But that's in the works as well. And we've got signage posted currently on the elementary playground. There's one camera that's installed there now. We anticipate installing another one. Yeah, we have our policy committee coming up next Thursday. And this year, the school board will be looking at chapters 5,000 and 6,000, which includes students and instruction. So a lot of heavy lifting as it relates to policy discussions this year, but the committees will start in on that next week. I think that's about it.
Questions? Councilman Bailey?
Yeah, during the hearings and meetings ahead here for the ferry, I think there was a lot of comment about, you know, we need service to Whittier. We need service to Whittier. Valdez, not so important. You guys, on the other hand, are you going to be lobbying to get service to Valdez? Is there going to be a conflict of ideas there, or?
No, I don't think so. I think we would rather not travel over Thompson Pass at any time of the year, let alone winter. You know, we would be fine with service to Whittier.
Okay, I thought the routes that you were playing, the teams, it was better to go through Valdez, not so much.
Not so much. A lot of times the teams will stop in Anchorage along the way, even though it's an
Okay.
extra, you know, maybe hour or two in travel if you're going that way. There are more amenities and things that teams can stop and do and see along the way through Anchorage. So.
And then with the cameras, I was traveling here last year and had to stretch my legs, so the best place to walk was in this big school playground. And as we got onto the yard, this voice came out of nowhere and said, "Intruder, you need to report to the school office." And Katie and I were looking like, "Is that us?" We turned around and left, but that would get Cordova's attention.
Yeah, these aren't voice activated, but nonetheless, yeah. I would add, if I could, one more thing. Our student council will be initiating some efforts around vaping and Juul use by students. I'm not sure if any members of the council are familiar with that, but over the course of the last 2 years nationally, Juuling, that's Juul, Juuling, has increased in teens by 70% across the US. And basically it's a vaporized form of taking nicotine into the system. And the way some of it is being marketed, it's less harmful than smoking tobacco, but nonetheless, you know, some of the marketing that's happening is misleading students, I think, to say the least. So Student Council will be taking up efforts this year to bring awareness and attention not only to the students, but perhaps the community as well. So any efforts that you might make as a city council once that initiative gets underway to help support the students would be appreciated. Your consideration.
Other questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. So no student council rep yet. And we have several items on the consent calendar. Resolution 08-19-33. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with Appraisal Company of Alaska for assessing services for 2020 for an amount of $17,000. And per Charter Section 2.8 and Cordova Municipal Code 3.12.022, recording excused absences of council members and mayor.
And anybody can change one of those, or we'll pull it off the
Does
agenda.
anyone want to pull those off separately? Okay, roll call vote, please.
David Gleason,
Yes?
Ken Jones is absent. Melina Meyer,
Yes.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
David Allison,
Yes.
Tom Baylor,
Yes.
and Jeff Guard is absent. The consent calendar is approved.
Hey, approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of 7/31/19 special council meeting and the minutes of 8/7/19 regular council meeting.
Second.
Hey, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as submitted. Reports of officers. Mayor's report, and then just last 3 days in particular has just been trying to keep up with the Alaska Marine Highway System. You probably heard that the $5 million supplemental that Representative Stutes got approved by the House was vetoed by the governor. That's unfortunate. I was called almost immediately, I think, from the floor for a quote, and there was an article that circulated. And thanks for the reminder. I was trying to be quick and efficient and copy council and others, and I'll try either not to do that or put a caveat that that's for information only and don't reply to those emails. So we get into open meetings issues. But I did talk to lobbyist Bitney this morning. He's talked to the commissioner's office. I anticipate probably getting a call in the next couple of days, but I've talked to IBU staff and Marine Highway System staff who actually reached out and see some potential for some cost-saving structures in a path that could either keep the Aurora in service or less desired a Alaska-class ferry in service. So I'm hoping to have that conversation with the commissioner in the next couple of days, and I cannot fathom the reality of having a 7-month gap in service. So I would just mention that Cordova Electric's going to be having a presentation on the Crater Lake Water and Power Project at the CEC regular meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. That is, the water element to that is where the city's interest lies, and they have paid for part of the feasibility work to date, but in the context of our current issues with water, that's at least one of the alternatives that we could be considering. And that's all I had for right now, unless there's any questions. Okay, manager's report.
Well, I've been looking a lot at the budget numbers and trying to make sense of the governor's cuts and vetoes and reverses and all of those things. But so we're starting to do our budget process right now, and I think the second meeting in September will be your first presentation of by column comparisons relative to the budget. On the first meeting in September, UBS will be here to give you a presentation. They have some change in methodology that they want to present to you, so you'll see that. And then we've been dealing with our share of personnel issues, and with that, Sam would like to come up and talk about some water, so I'm going to let her talk to you about water. 10 seconds.
Okay, so I just want to let you guys know how much time and energy and stress level the water crew has put into managing the water for the last 3 weeks. I mean, those guys are working hours, racking their brains and trying to make this work. And if people think we can't run out of water, it's not a good thing to be thinking. It is important that you all and everybody conserve water, not just the canneries. I understand that the canneries use a lot of water, but even a garden hose will run 12,000 gallons in an hour. So you get 5 people watering their lawns or watering the street or washing their car, you're pounding out some water. So I just want you all to be advocates for the city and to help facilitate that message. Alex has helped by putting it onto the board at the school. NVE has helped by putting it on their electronic board. There's updates on the webpage. I can tell you that today, as of this morning, the Moorpack tank was at 3 feet. That's very low. They're still processing Monday's fish. They're killing them today. So they're gonna, really, we're not gonna have any kind of real break to regain. We're hoping tonight that as they slow down before the catch from today comes in, we can build back up Moorpack. We also spent a couple hours on the phone with the engineers, and we are tweaking some valves. So our water system is head pressure, gravity. We're not pumping water through the system. We pump for a few places. So we're turning down Mills. We're turning down where Mills comes in and meets Murchison is EAC water treatment plant, but the tank's called Murchison. So because this head pressure restricts the flow coming this way from Murchison. Murchison has lake water. That's our reservoir right now that we can really use. So we tweaked some valves. It seemed to be helpful. It allows, so the concept is that way more water can come out of the tank faster. I shouldn't say more. It will drain the tank faster because the head pressure will push it out, and it's not fighting the head pressure from Meals, turning down Meals. So we turned on 2 pumps today. We ran last night as they were processing and only taking 500 gallons per minute out of the reservoir. The reservoir is our saving grace. We need that. We need to keep that extra water. It's not extra, but water there so that we can supplement EAC. We can't not run enough water out with just EAC and Murchison. We are getting 0 flow from Orca right now. We're getting 315 gallons per minute from Murchison. Orca typically can be 500 to 600 gallons per minute. So it's real. We feel pretty confident. We are looking at alternatives. Tomorrow will be an interesting day to see where we stand with the valves being tweaked. So I just think it's important that it's taken seriously. You know, we're trying to take it seriously at the city level, sent in all employees email. It's in the e-news, it's on the webpage, it's on the Facebook. I mean, I don't know where else to put it really, but we need to really be conscientious. So with that, I have a proposal, or I don't have a proposal, and GV Jones has given us a proposal to do a network analysis and bottleneck and an overall overview of what we have existing and how maybe we can, you know, either look at new sources or what are our options. So as you guys consider the CIP list in the next,
Should be on the next.
meeting, I think that the water needs need to be addressed. I'm not saying what or how, but if we can get it onto a CIP list, you know, and we could come up with a better words, it then is something you can turn in for a grant. Look, our water needs CIP has been on the city council CIP list for the last 3 years, whatever. We did that with the harbor. I mean, clear back to 2011, that's been on the CIP list in some form or another. It was all turned in with those grants. So I just ask that you would consider that at the next meeting. 2nd Street, so we're still working on the grant in between writing water updates. We will have a final resolution for the match amount on the 9.3. I know you guys want to spend more money, but it is a big investment. So we will have that where we have worked with CEC, CTC, and NBE, and we are hoping that we will get some supplemental match from them, and on the 9.3 meeting, we'll know that. So I just want to give you that update. But the 9.3 meeting is it. The grant is due the 15th, and it's actually due the 13th because I'm flying out on the 14th. So
9-4.
that's our chance, 9.4 or a special meeting after that.
Councilman Baylor.
So when I see this city filling up their water truck by the hydrant, are they hauling potable water to somebody, or what's that all?
Yeah, well, yeah, we just had that discussion today. I did not realize that they were filling from the hydrant. And so that has changed.
Okay.
It's amazing to me, and probably because I'm living and breathing it and hearing it every day, that people who work at the city don't even realize that there's a water shortage, you know? And so that's why I sent the update today that I've been sending to the cannery since July 5th. I sent it to all city employees and asked them to be diligent about conserving water. And I told streets that they can pump it out of the lake with a pump if they need to do that, but no more coming off the hydrant. And the reason they were sweeping is because the state crew is on the ferry, the 28th, to paint the fog lines and the center lines. So it wasn't just, we're gonna clean up the gravel. There was some logic behind it, but, so they may. Any other questions?
Other questions?
Does look like rain on Monday though, so.
Yeah.
hope-
She doesn't
Let's
believe it
hope.
until it rains.
I know.
Every day I come to work, it's the next day. Yesterday was Tuesday, now it's Wednesday. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I've heard from several people that you've been keeping the canneries and NVE. I know they said that you've been in contact with them about the water shortage, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's out there.
I just want to
Some people
mention
know.
that unfortunately, sorry, did I interrupt you? Okay. I just want to mention, unfortunately, when those pumps are running down there, we have historical, unbelievably low hydro. We're only 25% hydro right now. So that pumping cost is probably 3 times what it normally is. So,
It's cheaper than the canneries not having water, though.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we have, Joel is out today adjusting individual valves to get the flow to work better. So it's you've got a couple of capacity issues here. And we talked about this 3 years ago. Capacities are you have limitations on pipe size in certain places that no matter how much water you had, you couldn't really deliver any more water because of the capacity of a 10-inch pipe. You have head pressure that it's 7.7 head pressure or thereabouts. That's as fast as water could run out of a pipe. If you get head pressure that hits 8.5, then it's actually restricting the flow of the water through the pipe. So all those things, engineering things that I don't think about have to be taken into consideration. And then just your pure volume of water that you have available to you. If you thought about having a 4th cannery in the scenario in right now, somebody would be out of water. So as you go forward, thinking about those capacity issues and when, if anything, overbuild a little bit.
Do you have other items on your?
No, that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the manager's report? Okay, clerk's report.
I have the first question on my written report is about the assessment committee, which is meeting on Friday.
Mhm.
And I don't know if council wanted to give any kind of direction on what they should do next or what you want to do next, but pending agenda, we can decide. And then the second to last thing on my report is about euthanizing pets when the vet isn't around. And we had talked about this over a year ago, but Nancy Bird brought it to my attention and gave me some information from the state that she'd been talking to. And then I guess I just want to know direction to pursue that. It looks like there could be a way for us to pursue it so that it's available for citizens. I don't think it's not gonna be a city function. It might be a contract of some kind that we have to have with Ken, which we would have attorneys do, which would be, we would be out of the liability of it, but just tell me one way or the other, or I can bring it as an item to actually vote if you want to, on whether or not to pursue it.
Yeah, I remember talking to Ken when I brought my dog to the vet about this, and he said there's some kind of state code that the city has to adopt to allow someone else to do it, and sounded like he had ideas of how it could work and had talked to a few people in the city, so I think if it got brought in front of us, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think if there's a way that we can pursue this, it'd be a great service to have in town throughout the year.
As long as it doesn't cost the city money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a good service to the community.
So basically,
option.
then, if Ken could identify that area in code and then just prepare the resolution or.
It's, what it's gonna cost us would be a few hours of attorney time, and I guess my time. But, so if we need, I mean, I can't give you more than that. I spoke with the attorney, and that's what he told me. I can't get too much more detailed than that, or it's gonna cost more attorney time. So, I don't know if that's enough consensus to tell me to pursue it.
I say yes.
I think so too. We had to put one of our dogs down, and I'll tell you what, it's pretty tough when your dog's sick and nobody's here to help you.
I agree.
Allison?
I was just gonna say, we can't be the first doing this, so
Right.
it can't be too hard to find somebody who's done it and did the same thing they did.
So maybe an email to AML or something.
Well, she did tell us that we would maybe be the only one that ever did a contract with a local vet's office. Otherwise, sometimes the animal control officer, so that would be our police department, would take it on. And I don't know if they have time and ability right now, but I mean, Ken has an employee that would be willing, I think. So what it is under just a vet, the employee cannot get okay to do it unless the vet's there. But if they have a contract with the city, then a person who has the education for it can do it.
Okay.
And the person bringing their dog in is paying for it, so it doesn't
Absolutely,
cost the city
can,
anything.
yes, absolutely, as far as fees, yeah.
Okay.
I guess
But-
one other point to bring up that when I was talking to us about too is disposal afterwards, because there's chemicals in the body. And I believe he said he talked to the refuse department about having a sealed container type of thing. So I guess that would be another part of it, just to make sure that we're disposing correctly. So that might cost the city a little bit of money.
Well, I
but
think,
I don't know.
No, he explained it. He explained to me exactly what I had to do. You do have to bury in a container that's, that can't be.
At least if we had that outlined so that we know what the process is. And
I think Ken's got that. I think his assistant would be able to do that.
Okay. So it sounds like,
pursue it if it's not a fortune.
yeah.
Okay, good direction. That's all I have for a report.
any questions, council? Okay, seeing none, we don't have any correspondence. Ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution 08-19-32. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, supporting naming a bridge on the Copper River Highway in memory of Irene Weber.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilman Meyer?
Yeah, I think it would be a great thing if one of the bridges could be named after Irene Weber. She did a lot for the salmon run, and she started it all, so I think that'd be good.
Councilman Schaefer? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We don't have any unfinished business. New and miscellaneous business, council discussion and possible staff direction regarding council membership on city boards and commissions.
So this is just a discussion, correct?
Yes, yes. I know, we don't like discussion items, but you can discuss without,
I mean, at this point, I don't see a problem with the wording. I think that is currently in code with the adoption of ordinance 1115, and that council members may serve on these boards, and that we're not necessarily representing council when we're on the boards. So I'm supportive of keeping as is, I think. I'm also on one of the boards, so I might be slightly biased.
Yeah.
Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, I guess I was involved when this was written, and I think I was the one that said the may part. I like it. I go back to the reasons why, initially, council was not like, would come on to plan and zoning, and they did not have a vote. And then at that point, council decided that council member would actually be a voting member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So Mr. Clopin came on and Mr. Baylor got kicked off because he can't have 8. No, my term was up. So that was years ago. And then I think the discussion rolled around to where it's probably better policy not to have council people voting like on plan and zoning. But the may part came, in my opinion, is if we go for a few months or 6 months with maybe 6 members or 5 members, then if a council person wishes to step up and serve on that, then that allows us to kind of get participation. And then if somebody from the public wants to step in, and then the councilman will step back. So to me, it was kind of a good fail-safe if we didn't get board participation, which we've had really good luck in the last few years. But there was a while there where you had to really go out and find people.
Mhm.
So I like it the way it is.
Other council discussion? So I think this is something that we just had on the pending agenda. And does any council feel like it needs to remain on the pending agenda? It sounds like so far comments have been that you're okay with the way it stands now. Is that pretty much a consensus?
Yeah, it hasn't been a
seeing
problem,
nods.
so.
So I think the pending agenda just got smaller.
Cool.
Good deal. I'll take it. So staff didn't feel one way or the other either. I was just purging it from, and
Okay,
wanted to make
great.
sure that was good to do.
Thank you.
Putting all that together.
And that takes us to pending agenda calendar and elected and appointed officials lists.
I got something.
Councilman Gleason.
So I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that until we get this PERS sorted out, we should probably schedule a meeting, our regular meetings, and then the alternating Wednesdays, special meetings, until we get it fixed. And we don't have to meet if we don't have anything. It was easier to cancel a meeting than it is to try to get one going. So if we just, I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but just every Wednesday have a meeting planned in case we need to vote on something until it's done.
Well, I think we'd only need one special meeting to get it done, within the next couple weeks, correct?
I don't know, he said it takes a month to get the money,
But I
right?
think we would have to pass it once in their court.
No, but the procedural part of passing the ordinance takes 2 meetings. The first meeting, whether you're gonna have a special meeting or whatever it's gonna be next week, you can initiate that ordinance without 7 votes. At the second reading of that ordinance, how many days in between do you need? Do you know?
No,
Does it matter?
I don't think it is.
So the following week, on the 3rd, theoretically, if you have 7 votes, you can then complete second reading of that ordinance, and it's done. Then for us, it's just a matter of transferring the money and getting all that stuff ready, and at some point you do a resolution, we transfer to this fund and that fund and that fund. But that doesn't change the procedure. For example, you voted on the transferring the money on the $269,000 some time ago. But by the time they get in that in the ACHQ and they have to close out those accounts, take from accounts that are invested, it just takes time. And I'm not saying they all take that time, but you just got to be prepared for a little bit of that.
And
So, but that doesn't affect your approval process.
could I ask council too for that, if we do a next Wednesday meeting to look at the noon time slot? Just because I have a CEC meeting that evening, and I was hoping that some city staff, or maybe Alan and others, could participate in the Crater Lake discussion at the CEC meeting that evening. And if it's just a quick special meeting agenda, if lunch
Actually
would
works
be
better for me because it's slim possibility we'll get a Thursday opener.
Yes. And that's the thing about Wednesdays, it's tough because we get the first and third, but then everybody else fills in the other ones too.
yeah, second.
It's like everybody's favorite day of the week. But noon absolutely works. And I'm back in the office on Tuesday, so yeah, put a special meeting together. So, but you're gonna have to get that ordinance going. You can do that? Okay. So that's what we're gonna do. Noon on the 28th, a special meeting.
Yeah, and I mean, you could schedule more. It's not like you can't cancel them. It only takes 24 hours.
Right, but 24 to create one, but you're saying,
But if we know
I
there's a
know.
meeting, you know, it's
I
a little
know.
easier for us to plan.
um,
But if one is all everybody thinks we need, then one will do it. I just want to do it as fast as possible.
let's
Get
talk
us-
at the September
get us
4th
current,
meeting
yeah.
about whether or not you want
Or to
any
get-
other specials after that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? This is sort of unrelated, but it's related to the meeting. I'm just thinking to myself, if UBS said, do the central treasury account, you don't want to do that.
No, because then we spend that right down to zero, and then we're robbing Peter to pay Paul if something else comes up. You know, we're stealing from the enterprise funds.
They're investing our money, and they're doing it how we want to, not how they
Okay.
want to.
All right. Just-
Hey, there are pending agenda items?
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to put on there somewhere, maybe this isn't an agenda item, maybe it might be just more something that the mayor could do, but is take up First Alaskans Institute's offer on doing tribal government training. I know they have conventions and other things that they're doing, so they might not even be able to get to us until the beginning of the first year, but I do think that's something that we should take them up on and at least get on their radar to see when they're available to come back down here and do a
Yeah.
tribal government training.
Just communicate that we're interested in that.
Yeah, and that we can be on their radar because they're busy too, so.
That's a good idea.
If you can just shoot me a reminder, it could be just as informal as an email, I think.
Okay, and I will put it on pending agenda as well.
Okay,
That
great.
it might be forthcoming, but
Um,
that you'll make contact.
I think, just looking out a little bit, I think clerk's evaluation's coming up too, so I just had that thought process. We're in August, and so I can work with Susan on dates on that, but
And number 4 on the pending agenda. I mean, it's going now, it's going well, but Dave had brought that up a long time ago, and I don't know how, that just sounds very political, yet I don't know if maybe you guys can think about that, Mayor Copeland, about could we really talk with anyone? Does it need to be higher level than just?
We're on 27.
you know, maybe, and I probably haven't been a little remiss in not updating on this. So the Cordova Fisheries Development Committee has met. They submitted 5 commissioner's permit requests for sea cucumbers, tanner crab, octopus, black rockfish, and king crab. And the, commissioner has been amenable to that, to considering those. So the shellfish biologist is looking at them, and particularly for octopus, sea cucumbers, and tanner crab. So that committee's kind of been doing some of that work, and maybe we should get a kind of a summary report to council. And but we've had a fair amount of engagement, fairly positive engagement with the department. So
Yeah, but I think we're talking about salmon, the one that's
Yeah,
already going.
yeah, okay.
You know,
Yeah, that's whatever council's will is there. That's a political.
I know.
Well, everybody's busy now, so
Yeah,
probably
the
not.
season's
time.
upon us. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
And then you will be here on Friday for the
I will. Yeah.
City Manager Assessment Committee meeting. And I don't know, I guess we'll talk about it at our next one after there's a report from it. I don't know how you're going to end it, but I guess you'll decide how you end it.
Okay.
Because Jim's going for shoulder surgery. I don't know how long he's going to be gone, but he'll be
Oh.
be there for Friday's meeting, but he's leaving like Sunday, so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
It's often just a couple of meetings, but it all depends on how it goes, I guess. That's all I have for pending agenda.
Other pending agenda items? Okay, audience participation. Any comments on this evening's agenda items? Seeing none. Council comments, I'll start to the left. Vice Mayor Meyer.
No comments.
Councilman Allison?
Congratulations to the school on making it to another school year. I think everybody survived the first day, so looking forward to another good year. Thank you.
Councilman Gleason?
I'd just like to thank Greg for your hard work. And thanks Sam for her hard work. Got stressed out over the water now, so. And thanks for showing up, guys.
Councilman Schaefer?
Yeah, thanks to Sam and the rest of the water crew for working hard to deal with all the water issues. We appreciate it.
Councilman Baylor?
Yeah, thanks to staff and also Barb for handling the finances. She's taken on a big job there. And then I guess a comment Councilman Allison said on the dog issue that was striking in my head. I didn't speak to it then, but I think what he was saying is there's got to be other communities that are doing the same thing, and maybe we can contact them and just literally do the cut and paste thing instead of the lawyer thing, because other communities must have this, or probably have the same issue. So we can maybe spend a little time with that. And yeah, and thanks to Greg for all your work. And you, School Superintendent Russell.
Okay, executive session, and I didn't hear back from Holly or Jennifer. They didn't think that they were gonna have
On which?
a Beecher
No,
update.
there's no feature.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we can strike that, and then we have, so that leaves 2 executive session items.